Tonight, I come to talk about crisis and opportunity.
You're a bad man. You're a very bad man.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Bright.
Then do
Available.
and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
Can you dig it?
A couple quick things I want to start out with. One, I want to give a shout out to Matthew. Another thing is, last week I had talked about the story about the Kamala Harris book, and it's like I said, it was hard to believe. Turned out that shit was made up. One person had donated that book in a care package, and a picture was taken, and then they just created the story, and so somebody lost their job over it. That person's claiming that the paper pressured them to do it. It's a whole thing, whatever. But yeah, that story was bullshit. It sounded too unbelievable. Anyways, this is also Teacher Appreciation Week. I'd like to point out a couple of things. The story just broke about how the American Federation of Teachers, the national union, had pressured the White House and the CDC to basically put what they wanted in the language and their guidelines for reopening schools. You know, for all that stuff about follow the science. Yeah. And there was also this story I remembered from back in late January where at a closed board meeting, the teachers down here in South Florida were all pissed off because they wanted to reopen schools, and they said, no, it's not safe. So then the board had pulled out all this stuff from their social media, showing them not really giving a shit, being out having cocktails, being out not social distancing, not wearing masks, and they cried foul and said, how dare you, you're spying on us, and we're allowed to do whatever we want in our off time. And yeah, but that's not the point. The point is you're a hypocrite and you're a fucking liar if you're saying, oh, I can't go back to teaching in person because I'm scared. That's the point. You're a fucking liar. All this shit about teachers being heroes. You know, most heroes don't go around calling themselves heroes. Sorry, but that's just generally not how it works. And heroes who are people that don't think twice about putting their life on the line to achieve a goal or fulfill a mission. Fucking heroes. I mean, and I'm not trying to shit on all teachers. I did have some really good teachers, but very few of them. Most of them were totally jaded, completely rule crazy and arbitrary. They didn't really give a shit. They were there to just do their job, collect their paycheck, go home. They didn't fucking care. And back then, you didn't have online bullies, you know, constantly harassing you with mean shit online. They actually beat your fucking ass back then. And when it was happening, I had teachers just look the other way. You'd be out there at recess, and you would look over and think, okay, any second now the teacher's going to look over, see what's happening, and then stop this. Because you don't want to be the rat, because then they beat you up for being the rat. And then you look, and the teacher looks over, and you see that they see what's going on, and then they turn their back and keep talking to the other teacher because they just don't want to deal with it. Those are the fucking heroes, right? So, sorry, like I said, I'm not trying to shit on teachers as a whole, but I'm not gonna just assume that you're a hero just because of your job title. There's a lot of teachers out there that are pieces of shit, and they go into work every day, and they're the smartest person in the room only because it's a room full of children. But anyways, that was just a fun little aside for, for Teacher Appreciation Week. Well, after 100 days in office, Biden gave his first speech to both houses of Congress, the joint address, which a lot of people made a big deal out of the fact that they didn't call it a State of the Union, but I mean, what are you going to do? Come out there and say the State of the Union is, what are you going to say, strong? But if you missed the address, don't feel bad. Nobody really watched it. I mean, the ratings were completely abysmal. I mean, they were ridiculously low for anybody, let alone the most popular president we've ever had. But, you know, there was a few things that I thought were worth taking a look at. One was the whole crisis and opportunity. You know, those are the same character in Chinese. They use the same word for crisis and opportunity. A little bit of a wink, wink, nod, nod, say no more. And then right after that, he mentions this.
The worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
The worst attack since the Civil War. That's just so fucked up on so many levels.
While this was all going on, the economy created more than 1,300,000 new jobs in 100 days. More jobs in the first 100 days than any president on record.
Yeah, after, 20 million people lost their jobs last year because of everybody having to shut down, I'd say we were expecting some jobs to be coming back at a record pace, and, 1 out of 20 million? That's fucking great.
We have to do more than just build back better. We have to build back better.
I get it. That was just a slip of the tongue, but I mean, it's pretty funny. I mean, other than that, it's not even worth staying awake for, you know, like good old Teddy boy. Ted, wake up, Ted. What the fuck, Ted? Oh, he looks like he had an edible.
The Defense Department has an agency called DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. The people who set up before I came here, and that's been a long time ago, to develop breakthroughs that enhance our national security. That's their only job. And it's a semi-separate agency. It's under the Defense Department.
Yeah, and it's not like fucked up shit ever gets done in the false name of national security. They're the research and development for the Pentagon. They develop the creepiest shit you've ever imagined.
National Institute of Health, the NIH, I believe, should create a similar advanced research projects agency for health. And here's what it would do. It would have a singular purpose: to develop breakthroughs to prevent, detect, and treat diseases like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and cancer. So let's end cancer as we know it. It's within our power.
Yeah, and if they do that, nothing will get suppressed at all, no. They suppressed de-encryption technology they developed for email. They kept GPS a secret for national security. It wasn't until they got sued because they developed it with fucking public funds. But now let's have an entire new agency to do the same thing with healthcare. So if they do develop something, they don't necessarily have to tell you. If somebody high up in an office that you've never heard of with no accountability decides that you don't need to know about it, you won't know about it. Yeah, that's a great fucking idea. Another agency. We've already got, 16, 17 intelligence agencies? I doubt anybody could name more than 2. That's always the answer, isn't it? Create another fucking agency. After all the money that's been spent on grants and research, no, magically it's going to happen just because we have an agency doing it.
I will not impose any tax increase on people making less than $400,000. But it's time for corporate America and the wealthiest 1% of Americans to just begin to pay their fair share. Just their fair share.
Oh, just their fair share is all. That's we're not gonna. That's such a crock of shit too. They're not gonna actually impose taxes. They're just gonna allow the tax cuts that Trump enacted to expire because those had a limit on them, and when they expire, people under 400,000, their taxes will go up. Only the 1% benefited from those tax cuts is a crock of shit because I am definitely not in the 1% and my fucking taxes went down notably. But now, that's gone. So I guess I have to pay my fair share too, even though I'm fucking poor as shit and work my ass off to stay that way.
A lot of companies also evade taxes through tax havens in Switzerland and Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. And they benefit from tax loopholes and deductions for offshoring jobs and shifting profits overseas. It's not right. We're going to reform corporate taxes so they pay their fair share and help pay for the public investments their businesses will benefit from as well.
Yeah, unless they're planning on doing away with the little loophole that allows a mega billionaire to just create their own tax-free foundation and launder money through that. Raising the corporate rate's just going to do what it did before. Make everybody shift out of this country, and, you know, you're not going to get that higher tax rate. You're going to get nothing.
We take the top tax bracket for the wealthiest 1% of Americans, those making over $400,000 or more, back up to where it was when George W. Bush was president, when George W. was president. We're going to get rid of the loopholes, allow Americans to make more than $1 million a year and pay a lower tax rate on their capital gains than Americans who receive a paycheck. We're only going to affect 0.3% of all Americans by that action. 0.3%.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to be shocked when they find out that those capital gains tax are going to apply to your little investment in crypto. Because if you, I mean, seriously, that's not just going to affect the top 1%. I mean, that's going to affect a lot of everyday people that tried to squirrel a little bit away and do something with their shit. But if they realize any kind of gain, it's going to get the shit taxed out of it. So enjoy.
And the IRS is going to crack down on millionaires and billionaires who cheat on their taxes. I'm not looking to punish anybody.
Not looking to, but people are gonna get punished. People are gonna get punished big time. And it's gonna be a big coincidence that they happen to be political enemies, and just like it was, 10 years ago? When the IRS got caught targeting all kinds of people that were, you know, a little too politically active. Oh, but that could never work again, right? That could never happen because, you know, because people got punished, did they? Fuck, Lois Lerner, she got a raise, she got promoted. But yeah, nothing to worry about. That shouldn't ring any alarm bells.
When you hear someone say they don't want to raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% or corporate America, ask them, whose taxes you want to raise? Instead, whose are going to cut? 20 million Americans lost their job in the pandemic, working and middle-class Americans. At the same time, roughly 650 billionaires in America saw their net worth increase by more than $1 trillion.
And all those billionaires are exactly the ones that know how to legally and lawfully avoid paying taxes. They've been doing it for a long time, and nothing he's proposing, raising the fucking rates, isn't going to do shit. They're just... oh, man. But whatever, we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, let's hear some about foreign policy, shall we?
I also told President Xi that we'll maintain a strong military presence in the Indo-Pacific, just as we do with NATO and Europe. Not to start a conflict, but to prevent one.
It's a funny little line. I mean, it makes it sound like we're being real tough, but I mean, that's what we've done forever. We had no plan to change that. I mean, that's just kind of meaningless. But then he started going on about how we needed to get out of Afghanistan, which, again, the last president already put that ball in motion, and all he did was actually delay it by 4 months, but somehow he gets to take credit for that, I guess.
We delivered justice to bin Laden. We degraded the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And after 20 years of valor, and sacrifice, it's time to bring those troops home. Look.
But then right after saying how, we decimated al-Qaeda and terrorism in Afghanistan, and he turns around and says, now there's terror everywhere. So what the fuck did we do for 20 years declaring war on terror? It did us a hell of a lot of good, didn't it?
Terrorism has metastasized. The threat has evolved way beyond Afghanistan. Those of you in the intelligence committees, the foreign relations committee, defense committees, you know well, we have to remain vigilant against the threats to the United States wherever they come from. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are in Yemen, Syria, Somalia, other places in Africa, in the Middle East, and beyond. And we won't ignore what our intelligence agencies have determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism. We're not going to ignore that either.
Yeah, that's the biggest terror threat, is white supremacy. You gotta be fucking kidding me. What a dipshit. Anybody who buys that. Fuck. The greatest terror threat is our fucking government. Jesus Christ. Oh, but let's move on. Please, tell us about the common sense gun control, Sleepy Joe.
I need not tell anyone this, but gun violence has become an epidemic in America. I laid out several of the Department of Justice actions that are being taken to impact on this epidemic. One of them is banning so-called ghost guns. The parts have no serial numbers, so they show up at crime scenes and they can't be traced.
Yeah, I'd like to know exactly which one of these crime scenes, which one of these mass shootings has there been a ghost gun. Because if there had been one, it would have been all over the fucking news about how this kid didn't even need a background check. He just ordered the gun online and put it together himself. The people doing that to go do a mass shooting, that shit just does not fucking happen. But whatever. What else you got for us?
Close the loopholes required in background check purchases of guns. We need a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Ah, yes, the infamous loopholes. Like going to a gun show and buying a gun with... Try doing that. Try doing that shit. You fucking can't. It's bullshit.
Talk to most responsible gun owners and hunters. They'll tell you there's no possible justification for having 100 rounds in a weapon. What do you think, deer wearing Kevlar vests?
And as for banning the assault weapons, Jesus Christ. I mean, look at places that have done that state mandated, like California, Connecticut. It's anything over 10 rounds. There's a big gap there between the 100 that he talks about and anything over 10. A lot of pistols hold 10. Or more than 10. And I don't even know what to say about the deer wearing Kevlar vest thing. I mean, that's just dumb.
And no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. From the very beginning, there were certain guns, weapons, that could not be owned by Americans.
And at the founding of this country, there were no weapon restrictions. Whatever you could afford to get, you could get. When the British troops marched into Lexington and Concord to try to confiscate the weapons, it wasn't just muskets, it was fucking cannons. You could have a cannon. So, I don't know where the fuck that comes from, but that's bullshit. And no amendment is absolute, huh? Oh, what about the one that said you can't have slaves? That one not absolute? I mean, there's plenty of others I could think of, but that'd be the first one that stands out in my mind. Oh, really? Yeah, a fucking prick.
We're not changing the Constitution. We're being reasonable.
Yeah, just be reasonable. It's only common sense. I mean, how could you be against common sense? All gets very Orwellian.
The image of a violent mob assaulting this Capitol, desecrating our democracy, remain vivid in all our minds. Lives were put at risk, many of your lives. Lives were lost. Extraordinary courage was summoned.
But then, of course, we gotta circle back to the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. The fucking so-called insurrection. I mean, you'd think if it was an insurrection, they'd brought guns. I mean, usually that's what happens. Or at least some Molotovs. And then the people that got shot, those are terrorists. Jesus. The cop that lost his life. They tried to claim that it was from getting hit with a fire extinguisher. Turned out that was bullshit. They tried to say it was from injuries sustained from the attack. That was bullshit. Didn't they just come out with his medical examiner report and it was natural causes? But they're still going to piggyback that onto it. after a year of people burning down shit, literally trying to lock people inside of a federal courthouse and set it on fire. That was an insurrection. But a bunch of people busting up into the Capitol. I mean, no, not the Oklahoma City Capitol. No, that's okay because they're on the right side of the aisle. But no. On January 6th, that was the worst fucking attack ever. And those people were labeled as, white supremacists, and now white supremacists are terrorists, so we can use the CIA and the whole national security apparatus to go after them the way we went after Al-Qaeda, right? No, that's not what's going to happen? Yeah, you'll see. It's going to be a lot of people paying a heavy fucking price just for, supporting the wrong. Hope you're ready for it. Alright, take care, everybody. Have a good week. Keep your head on a swivel. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. Say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. Stupid fuck! Look at you now!